panel here, and then I'll tell you our story, where we are in the process. So we have Stan here. Stan Diamond is the media director and is going to be on the board for Easthampton Neighbors. Would you like to say something, Stan?
Well, I do want to say that Easthampton Media is recording this event, and it will be available for you to watch either from their website or from their YouTube channel. And if you do go to their YouTube channel, you can also use closed captioning if you need it, or if any of your friends need closed captioning on the audio. It's available on all of our programs on YouTube. That's all for now. Oh, if you want to say anything or ask any questions during the event, please come up to the podium and tell us who you are and where you live. And then, you can talk to the group, talk to us, and we'll answer your questions.
Okay, Owen, a lot of people are going to know you, but you should tell them anyway.
I'm Owen Zarrett. I'm Easthampton City Councilor. Stan and Easthampton Media, thank you so much for providing coverage of this event. One thing for me as a local elected official, but certainly also as a resident, has been wanting to make sure that we support our aging population, 55 and older, allowing them to age in place, and we'll get into that terminology in a little while. I was really excited to hear about this initiative and more than thrilled to support it as well. I think especially with things changing in the city, potential for prices going up and people needing to plan more for saving for the future, it helps to be able to provide a volunteer network to help alleviate some of those expenses and some of the anxiety of wondering how you're going to make certain things meet, and also try to figure out how you're going to accommodate yourself as you age. So we'll get more into that with the presentation. What I'm saying will make more sense then. But I'm thrilled to be here. I'm thrilled to support this, and I'll turn next to Brendan.
Brendan Rodgers.
Hello, everyone. Thanks for coming out. So I'm the director at the Council on Aging, and I've been in the position for over a year now. And I feel like we're aiming towards an initiative that would help fill in the gaps with elder services. And we'll get into that in a few minutes. But certainly, I think there are some limitations that we have as a municipal department. And it would be nice to have another agency and organization to bounce off of. We have Highland Valley, of course, and they do a wonderful job, and we do a lot of referrals with Highland Valley, and they provide some amazing services, but we need something a little bit more in the community. So I felt like this would be a perfect opportunity to represent Easthampton, the 55 and up population, by trying to start this initiative and trying to recruit people.
And we have Linda Desmond here from Northampton Neighbors. We're thrilled to have her because she's, as you know, right next door, and they've already launched Northampton Neighbors. So she'll be here, very valuable asset tonight to answer questions and to go over stuff. So say hi.
Hi. Yeah, Linda Desmond. About a year and a half ago, I was director of the Senior Center in Northampton. Previously, I've been working the field of aging until I actually became one, an older person. For about 50 years, I worked at Highland Valley Elder Services. I was director of the RSVP program, and I worked internationally in Dublin, Ireland for about 10 years. So I'll tell you how I kind of embraced this program too as we do our little talk through. And I'd love to answer any questions.
And I'm Stephanie Kelly, and we're down to our story now. So I just wanted to tell you that I got the idea from Linda, who's been my friend for years and years and years, and I watched Northampton launch their program. And I had just moved here, and I looked around and I said, we have this great community. I'm a city planner, by the way, retired now, but professor and city planner. And I looked around and I said, oh, this is the best place in the world to set up a community service like Northampton Neighbors over in Easthampton Neighbors. So I approached Brendan, and we've had this great collaboration. We already have about 5, 6 people in a core who are headed to be on the board. And again, you'll see more of this in a few minutes, where our timeline is and where we are in our progress. But again, I got the idea just hanging out with Linda. So I need help, and we're going to talk about some of the needs. Maybe some of you, hopefully, or some people you might know can come in and help us too, because in order to get this going, we really need some support. We need some people out there who have talents and skills that can really help us. So that's our story, and again, recruitment is our #1 thing. Right now, we have what we call a steering committee. Again, some dedicated, motivated people, but then we have to get towards a formal board of directors. So that's what we're looking for right now. We are in our infancy. We've only been around for 3 months. We've had meetings within ourselves, but we need to reach out to some more talent and skills. We also need members, seniors, and volunteers. You're going to be hearing in a bit, what's the difference? What are these 3 clumps? We need to build up people who are going to be in the membership, which means that you're part of the group, you're supporting Easthampton neighbors. Then we have what we call seniors who, within that group, 55 and over, who need the services. So you have to be 55 and over to get the services. And by the way, our membership is no fee. We've decided, like Northampton, that we shouldn't charge a fee. If you go across the country, you'll see a lot of the villages do charge. Exceptionally high is some places like Wellesley, over $1,000 a year. Just join up and get services. But we would like to keep it like Northampton. They've been very successful, which you'll hear in a while, and they don't have any membership fee. So then we have the volunteers, and that's what obviously is real axle to this whole big wheel. The volunteers are people who, like ourselves, have these talents and want to help seniors age in place. So they volunteer the services, and then they are matched up with the seniors who need them, and that's how it works. So it's amazing to watch how they have grown from 2016 to now, Northampton, and I just have this vision that I want it to happen here. So that's where we're at.
So, where the Council on Aging fits in, for those of you not familiar with Easthampton Council on Aging anyway, is we're a municipal department, and we provide services for individuals who are 55 and up. Now, if I were to make a broad generalization as to what we do, I would break down our services into 3 categories for the most part. So we look at case management and advocacy, which is through our outreach. So we're looking at putting in public benefits, both state and federal, that can help people. So whether that be SNAP, fuel assistance, Medicaid, Medicare counseling, housing, and the list goes on. And so it's a huge part of what we do, and it plays a beneficial role in helping our seniors being able to kind of adapt to a lot of the changes that are happening around them and to live a little bit more comfortably. The next piece we have is transportation. And transportation, we have our own shuttle system, where we end up bringing people to medical appointments, but we have a small service area. And on top of our own shuttle system, we have a small pool of volunteers that also help us get our clients outside of our service area to places like Bay State and Mercy Hospital, where our vans just can't, right now, for the time being, go. And then last is that we do events and activities that mainly surround socialization, doing community forums where people can engage and share their experiences together. Now, while all these things are essential and they play a huge role in elder services, certainly there are many gaps, as I mentioned before, and I feel like at this point, and based on what and this is where I kind of lead into where we ended up touching base with UMass Boston, is we did a needs assessment, and that was starting back just about 2 years ago. And so as we're trying to realistically adapt to the aging population, there's some things here that kind of terrify us as an organization that does elder services. So as you can see here, over the next 10 to 15 years, we're going to have an exponential growth in the 55 plus. And by 2035, more than 1 out of 3 Easthampton residents are going to be 60 plus. So we're going to have more and more folks coming to us. And what it comes down to is essentially, if this projections play out the way we see it now, is we're going to be dealing with almost a 32% percentage of people 60 and up. So you can imagine what kind of strain that's going to put on our department. So we cannot do this alone. It's impossible. And that's why we have to rely on other agencies. As I mentioned before, we have Highland Valley, but I honestly think there can be more. And this is where the Council on Aging really started to think, okay, where are we going to be able to get some of these basic services from? And then finally, and there's many things to this assessment, so if anybody wants to see it, I can gladly, share, or get the PDF to you via email. But the last one, the median household income for Easthampton 65 and over is lower than statewide median. So we see hundreds of clients each year that are just failing to make, the basic needs. And so, while yes, we might be able to give them a subsidy as far as, with health insurance, or maybe we can look at ways that we can have a supplemental food source to them. There's other things that sometimes people don't think of. It's the, activities of daily living, Those are the things that we know are a huge part to this population. So when we watch someone who's trying to attempt to do something that they just physically can't do in their household, and maybe it just was something as small as, like I said, moving a piece of furniture, or installing a fire alarm. Those are things that, unfortunately, for part of our population, can put them at risk because they're trying to do something they physically can't do. So that's one example. So, and then we have other examples where we look at just isolationism, where we're, not able to reach, all the people that are out there. I mean, we have, a great deal of 60 and up population that it just, are not meeting, they're not having their social needs met. They're not having, basic household chores met sometimes. And so you see these folks who end up ending up in a at-risk situation, and they end up in places like, rehab or long-term care potentially. And we're trying to avoid that by offering a preventative measure here, by having a strong network of volunteers that can get out there and really just provide these basic services. So that's where we, want to, lead into this idea, this initiative of the Easthampton Neighbors.
Okay, so how does it work? This is the village concept, it's called. It's across the country. Actually, it's in several other international countries. It's spreading like wildfire. We'll go over the history in a few minutes, but this is the concept itself. Basically, the mission is to empower the seniors to age in place. So in other words, to go off what Brendan just said, you're allowing a lot of these seniors who necessarily couldn't stay in their houses to stay at home. It's just this phenomenal product you're getting when you're getting these volunteers who can go over and help. And they're enjoying independent, engaged lives too, because a lot of those services, don't forget, go into the isolationism we just talked about. There's all kinds of interest groups, there's social activities. So what we're doing for the seniors is offering them those opportunities also. As we said, it's member driven, and we're not going to have any fees if we can help it. So hopefully we start getting all these members who will be supporting. Obviously they donate if they can, when they can, and then we get the volunteers matched up with the seniors who need the help. Now, how do you do that? You do that with a central office and with a call system. We heard all the technicalities the other day when Linda came to our meeting. And we're not there yet, so the technicalities will just come. We're trying to get people who are interested in this concept and this idea and just start moving forward. We can get to the call centers later. It's this intricate kind of software that people will call in, and then they'll say what their services they need and want, and then they're matched up. So it's very cool, the software. They have one staff person, and then they have some call managers who are volunteers. They service the call center. So it's very efficient, it's working very well. Again, we have all these models to look at across the country. So it's manageable for us. So here's a little history. Everybody's always interested in the history to see where it started and how it's mushrooming across the country. So again, Beacon Hill Village, first one in Boston, 2002. And that was a group of people who decided in that neighborhood that, we could really use some services for our older people who are in the house, to stay in the house. Again, that's one of the ones that has huge annual fees, obviously. Because they want those services, they're a different kind of community. That's fine. But here, we're going to have the mission of having no fees and having services that are tailored to our types of people. Obviously, in there, they have pools in Wellesley and, you know, special libraries everywhere, and that's their lifestyle. So that's where it began. And as I said, now we have 200, even more than that as we speak. Every day, there's a network that you can join, which we have. And they have an interactive map. You can go online and look at it. It's very cool. It's called Village to Village Network. So this interactive map has all these pop-ups. Every day you'll see, I've been watching it, and all of a sudden you'll see 10 more pop-ups in another part of the country. So again, there's over 200, more than 150 in development. And as I said before, even they're popping up in Australia, Finland, South Korea, other countries too. We are the epicenter, which is interesting. Massachusetts, as I said, we started in Boston, but since then we've moved across Central Mass. There's 10 in and around Boston, 5 on the Cape even. So mushrooming again. If you look at the map this week, you'll see there are even more villages. And finally, in Western Mass, we have Northampton, as we said, which launched last year, Amherst recently, Shutesbury, Whately, Petersham, and Berkshire are a little bit further along than we in Easthampton, but still pretty much beginning stages. They haven't launched like Amherst and Northampton. This is what you do. You consider, again, this is, as I said, as a city planner, we just have such a unique, wonderful community, you know, the Nashawanack Pond downtown, the mills that we're going to be seeing up in the left-hand corner, restored and renovated. We've had, as you know, so much at Eastworks, so much going on at Mill Pond, so much community activity that it's the perfect place to get everybody to help each other to stay here, or else they're going to have to move out, as we just looked at the statistics and as Brendan explained. They won't be able to afford living here, and they need this extra help. So again, that's what we're doing. We're matching up. We're thinking about Easthampton every step of the way here, how we do our services, how we want our model to be tailored. This is exactly where we are right now. So we've been meeting, as I said, for 3 months. We have a strong, dedicated core. Unfortunately, 3 of them tonight aren't sitting here because they have stomach bug. Sorry. So that's why they're not here. But we do have a nice core right now. We have to move towards establishing a board of directors, however, and the 501c3 has to be done. You can't start getting donations from businesses and people in the community until you're 501c3 status. So we're looking at that right now. Who can help us? Who can do it? So hopefully we'll get that done right away. That'll be the first thing. Form our board along the way. Then, as you know, boards typically will develop the mission and the bylaws, set up a website for communication. And we were talking before the meeting, as a matter of fact, it's not all that difficult. So if you all are interested, or if you know somebody, it's not overwhelming. They have the models on the Village to Village network that I just said we joined. So they'll show you models and bylaws and typical kinds of missions. You basically go on there, cut and paste, change it again to what you want for Easthampton. I know because I taught urban planning for 35 years, and we always told the students, you can go in and cut out zoning bylaws. That's what you do. You know, you like something Amherst does, then you bring it over here. As long as you know, change a few things and make it Easthampton owned, it's okay. So it looks overwhelming, but it really isn't. Once we get into it and we get people who are on board, if you keep thinking of the vision and what's going to happen in the end, I think this stuff can be kind of fun, actually, and go by what other folks have done around you. Now, the next step, again, build the membership. We can't say it enough. We need to go out and we need to talk to other people. If you all could do that, that'd be so helpful. it's just a matter of signing up. You don't even have to pay anything, just to say you're supporting it, just to say you're going to spread the word. Along the way, it'll be real fun, like Linda will talk to us later, training the volunteers. It's so fun to have training programs, have them get Cory checked, have them get all ready, and then watch them go to these houses where the seniors live. You know, I really want that to happen. It's just very exciting. And then matching them up. It's just such a cool idea to match them up with what you need. And there are tons of people who want to volunteer, so that's the other thing you really hope for. They certainly are in Northampton and the towns around us. All this talent, people, especially retirees. And finally, you launch the village, which is very fun. You know, you have this big, huge party and launch it and go out, and you know that you're in operation and your seniors are getting the help they need. Okay. This is just a diagram again to show everybody. I'm sure we'll have questions later too. People who can be members, you join up again, seniors 55 and over, the only ones who get the services. The volunteers can be any age. You know, you can have teenagers who want a snow shovel, you can have all kinds of people who want to volunteer. And then the board of directors obviously can be members, they can be volunteers too. They can be seniors, obviously. Okay. This we'll leave up later. This is just our contact information. So again, we're really saying that we're really in desperate need of people saying they're interested at this point. So that we'll leave that up so you can see it. And I also have a board out back with a handout before you go, so you can see, again, different aspects of the PowerPoint and a handout to take with you explaining everything so you can tell your friends. And that's our contact information. We'll leave that up after. So one last thing, we wanted to show you the video, if we can get it going here. We practiced. Hit the left click, right?
Yeah.
This is the Northampton video. We should have shut off the lights, long ago, but do you think thank you so much.
It's a lot easier to offer
This is
help
the Northampton
than to
Neighbors
ask for
video.
help. But if you have an organization like Northampton Neighbors, you're not asking for a favor. You're asking from an organization that plans to offer such help.
It's sort of all the problems that fall between the cracks, I think. Northampton Neighbors often can help with those.
I think it's so remarkable that all of this is offered without any charge. I mean, we have all of these committed people working very, very hard, and it's all free.
I've changed light bulbs in my calls. I've removed air conditioners. I've glued chairs.
I was a little bit shy at first, but I said, gee, I need this help. And how am I going to get it? You know, and I talked to a few people and they told me about the neighbors, and they're wonderful.
Being elderly and living alone, I said, that's for me. I couldn't stay living alone in my cottage if I didn't have help. And they've been able to help me every time. And they just send somebody over and they do it. I love them. I call them my house angels.
I was contacted regarding a member who is not able to get out. It means a lot to me, just for her to know that she has some outside contact, just to look forward to once a week.
I had someone come and flip my mattress, which is something I can't do at all. Never could.
You get far more out of it than the time it takes to be a volunteer.
I realized that it's okay to ask. It's definitely harder to ask, but it's okay. Northampton Neighbors helps to keep people young and active, and I'm so appreciative of that.
It's just a beautifully organized way to be neighborly.
can't wait to make our video.
I know, that's what I said. I called the other day. Stan gave me the person to call, and I said, well, we don't have anyone to interview yet.
It'll come.
It'll come, I hope. So I think we should open it up to questions.
Do you want me to say a few things?
Sure, absolutely.
Okay, I'll just say a few things. I know it's, usually people say, oh no, she's talking, but I'm going to say it anyway.
Bring it on.
Okay,
Still
well,
let Owen talk.
I promise, we do need the questions, it's so much more. But, I mean, the bottom line, I was sitting at my desk as a director of the Northampton Senior Center. I get a phone call from the core group that started Northampton Neighbors, and they said, so, you know, they started to tell me about it, and I was very familiar with the village movement, and from someone who's been working in the field for 50 years, I said, oh my God. I said, can I be a member? Can I, and not only a member, they said, well, would you be on the board? And I kind of had an in because I had the hat on, you know, so, but it's deep inside me, like I worked at Highland Valley as a case manager, and I was, you know, 18 years as RSVP director, and you know, there was, we did good things and we helped people, but it was limited, and there were these big gaps in times then a homemaker wasn't there, or the van couldn't pick my mom up from the grocery store or something like that. And that's what we need. We need to put we need to fill those gaps. And you know, we're now a different generation. I mean, when I started, I remember working at Highland Valley in the nutrition site in Easthampton. That was like one of my first jobs. I was a substitute. Yeah. Anyway, and when I worked there, it was a different time. Most of the women didn't drive. This is really telling my age. And no, the horses weren't out yet. They were already put away. But now we're independent. We live longer. We're healthier. You know, and I want to control my life. You know, I don't necessarily want someone to tell me what to do with everything, you know, so that's what I'm very excited about. This organization lets you control your life, you know, and there might be a time when you age in place to a point where you need that next step. But wouldn't it be nice to extend your life in your house or in your home another 5 or 10 years just because you've got friends and neighbors to satisfy you and help you? It's been pretty incredible. We have a lot of social activities. We have we also have 700 members in just about a year and a half. And I've just never had that experience in all my organizing in community organizing. So what does that say? That says people like me are saying, well, let's find something that can really work to give us that independence and let us stay home. So, and we have 100 volunteers, and we provide services for about 100 a month. So in a year and a half, I just can't believe that this is happening and the outcomes that are happening. Most recently, we have what we call neighborhood circles. You're not even going to think about that yet. But our neighborhood circle was at the Salvo House, which is one of the housing complexes in Northampton. And we had a kind of a get together. And one of the guys I sat next to was, I'm going to call him John. John says to me, he said, so Linda, do you know this is the first time in 17 years I've come to a social function? And I said, you know, John, this is why I've been working 15 years in this field, because if you can change John's attitude because your friends are providing a party downstairs in your room, similar to Treehouse. I won't promote that yet, but anyway, it works. It works. It's like people your own age are helping, well, maybe a little younger, but maybe not so much. I mean, we had Charlie DeRose there. He was the owner of the Gazette for 100 years, and now he's putting people's lives together and things like that, and he's loving every minute of it. And they love Charlie coming to their house, and everybody knows Charlie. So there's that trust element because your neighbors are helping you. there's about 100 other things, but I'm not going to do that. I want to hear the feedback mostly. But it is working in Northampton, and it surprises me every day of what I hear and the special qualities that happen. In one of all right, I promise, this is my last story. No more stories. We have Northampton, we have neighborhood circles. And in one neighborhood circle, that's a group of Northampton neighbors that live in one natural area. And they've started a community garden. And with the food, the vegetables that they're putting together now, they're going to have a harvest dinner for their community, it's Village Hill in Northampton. Anyway, these are the cool things that I keep hearing about. And I know Northampton can do it, Easthampton can do it too. And I'm so proud of Easthampton. The changes here are so, I was away for 10 years and I came back and I was coming here to eat lunch and dinner and I was saying, wow. So anyway, it's time. It's time. Thank you. And we'll answer questions. Anyone, do you want to say anything?
No.
I mean, one thing listening to you talk is that I think that I think that while a lot of us who live in traditional neighborhoods with sidewalks and single-family homes or not that are next to each other still have opportunities to have neighbors that help us borrow a cup of sugar, help us with our, in a pinch, driving somewhere. I do think that in this day and age, we've kind of become more insular. We depend less on a network of our community and our family or families. Once upon a time, and especially in traditional industrial towns like Easthampton, you'd have multiple generations of family living in one place, and everyone was there to help them. And that's not the case anymore. People leave, people pass away, people move. In the current dynamic that we have, children grow up, they go to college, they move somewhere else, they find a job. And the opportunities to have people to really reach out to and help to borrow that cup of sugar or to mow your lawn or to shovel your sidewalk, it's gone away a little bit. And I see this initiative, just listening to you talk and kind of taking this in again for the nth time, in a good way. This is really a great way to extend our network and to help build communities. And so I'm sitting here getting a little verklempt and excited about this because this is really exciting. I mean, this is a way to bring people together. And one person touches another who touches another. And all of a sudden, we're not on Facebook criticizing each other. We're actually out there helping each other and hugging each other and building connections where, again, to what I spoke to before, a lot of people's families moved away. That's why a lot of the senior population feels isolated and alone. This is a way to establish and create family and connection. So I'm just excited.
We are, and again, I repeat, the person who helped me so much, I was lonely woman standing, is Brendan. So we're really lucky in our community to have the senior center too. So closely knit and so understanding. And also the treehouse. Yeah, I met with Kara the other day, and they're just a microcosm of what we want all over Easthampton. You already have it there. So help us out. If anyone has any ideas, besides questions, obviously ask questions too, but anything else you think we might do to spread the word, get someone else who can join up?
Well, just thinking, I'm Carrie from Easthampton. Do I have to get up or can I stay here? Do you want me to get up? Yes.
I mean, if you get up, then people who see this at home will be able to hear you.
That's true. Ever so important. But I think, and I'm here representing Treehouse, a community member, and things do happen in relationship and connection. I love that you called that out because that's how we do come together, and it takes time. And we've seen people age in place who I don't think would necessarily be able to do that were they not in a neighborhood that's supportive. But my question is, so I'm thinking, okay, what can we do to be good partners and engage more people? And so I would love a blurb to put out because we may have community members and this might be like their thing. This might be really resonant for them. And so I would love to create some blurbs, and maybe other people would like something too, to be handing out to young people or fellow seniors or whatever. So, yeah, and also to look for officers and so on. We're really happy to support that effort and invite everyone in our community to be part of building this.
Lynn, by the way, is one of the ones who's ill.
Yes,
she's part of our core.
Yes,
so
yes, she is.
She
I know
knows
she
she's
is,
been
yes.
helpful
So I'm
too.
trying
But
to
yeah, that'd be
channel Lynn too.
Right.
Okay.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Can I say one thing on this? You know, you were discussing the marketing of this. How did we get all of these 700 people? It was totally by word of mouth. I mean, at the beginning, not so much. You know, we had to do exactly what Carrie suggested, get those blurbs out. But and that was about the first 50, and then from there on, it's like, oh, well, I got to the doctors, and I brought someone to New Hampshire because her mom was having her 93rd birthday, and you know, the senior center was not going to New Hampshire, but I could drive to New Hampshire, you know, and so we have these little roles. I also take one person once a month to get her prescriptions, her cash her check, and then go and get four brand muffins every month. That's my role in Northampton Neighbors. So we all have little roles, but it's good. But the marketing kind of markets itself because people like, you know, opening up those neighborhoods again.
And actually, I have a question. So, and especially, I think this would be helpful for the people here. How long? And obviously, there are different communities. Northampton's a larger community. How long does it usually take, you feel, to really start building a viable network?
Well, the first slide kind of indicates there's a little bit of a time lapse because you got to get your 501c3. People are not going to donate to you, you know, without that 501c3, and you want to be legal. So that takes a little bit of time, and then, you know, getting your structures in place. So I would say you give about a year before you really even think services can begin. And then there'll be a number of forums similar to what you're doing now, and you know, so but then it just flies pretty much.
Forums and YouTube videos. Don't forget the YouTube videos.
YouTube videos, okay.
It's very good.
I have a question. Barbara LeBombard, 102 Clark Street. I wonder if you could kind of explain how the call center works. Like, where is it? Like, is there somebody staffed there all the I mean, how does that exactly work?
Okay, it's it actually this is something I put on here. You can actually do it from your home. And it is some software that is purchased, and you have a pretty significant training, and most of our call managers, which, you know, they're the lifeblood of the organization, basically. Anyway, they work like maybe 4 or 5 hours, but it's in their home. And then they, you know, Susie might have, you know, Monday from 1 to 5 or something like that. We would love more call managers because they're the ones that make all the connections. And people like the fact that they can work from their home.
Are they paid?
No one's. We have one paid staff who is paid for part-time, and she's considered a consultant at this point. Yeah. Again, 100 volunteers, but 700 members, and it's somehow, I don't know how it works, but it works, really.
Linda, can you just explain a little more, because I've heard this, but other people haven't, about how the people in need of services get connected with the volunteers, and that's through the call center, but
Right.
People who are the volunteers say, oh, I can volunteer on this day to do this. So if you can explain that a little bit more, I think it would be
Well, we would do outreach for, you know, recruiting volunteers. We get our volunteers, we do their training, we do the their query checks, and then we get on their application it says, well, I can work on these days, and I'd like to do this, and then that's entered into the database. So the call manager will say, okay, Mrs. Jones needs a ride to Cooley Dick, and on Tuesday presses the button, and the 10 volunteers that said they can work on Tuesday, they'll provide transportation, come up. And then the call managers maybe send a request of service out to 3 or 4 of the volunteers, and the first one that comes back is the person connecting. And that volunteer will call Mrs. Smith and say, I'm going to pick you up at Tuesday, any special way to get into your house or anything like that. That's when they make the personal contact. So it's a little bit of a system for the call managers, but again, it's working really nicely.
So how does this work with like the Easthampton Council on Aging? Because you do a lot of this stuff. I mean, I know I drive from time to time. So how does that fit all together?
Yeah, well, I think while we do have volunteers at the COA, I think we could expand on it. And I think we need more involvement in the sense that our staff is pretty small, and to try to, work with what we have right now, I think, gets us to a certain point. But I feel right now, and especially going back to the UMass Needs Assessment, we're going to need more volunteers than we have on hand. And yes, we could try to recruit, but I think we need more assistance with that. And I just think the numbers over the years, volunteers will come and go at the senior center. And I love the fact that we do have our dedicated volunteers, but if we're really heading towards these projections, I don't think that our department alone is, like I said, is going to be able to handle that. So I feel like we can kind of dovetail with another agency that could also provide us. So like say we have our 20 volunteers at the senior center who are able to do X, Y, and Z, but we have someone call in who says, oh, I need help removing snow from my sidewalk. I have no volunteers that I can offer right now. Or going to another example where someone is, needing help with, flipping the mattress, as that woman said. I don't have a volunteer, And, I have people who can, transport some of our folks to medical appointments, and it's such a valuable service. But I know as time goes on, if we're going to help people successfully age in place, we're going to need more and just keep on expanding on what we have. So to me, it's a continuity of services. If we couldn't handle something, maybe we could make a referral to another organization that could help us. And I think it's just about pulling together community resources at this point. I don't want to isolate us from outside help because I feel like it would be beneficial to all of our elders if we used every single resource that we had at hand. So.
And we have a really good working relationship with the senior center, and it's just like you said, if we do not have a volunteer that can pick up Mrs. Smith today or tomorrow, or within 48 hours, whatever your restrictions are, then the call manager will call directly to Jen at the senior center and say, hey, we've got a problem, and vice versa.
Yeah.
So that, and it's a matter of choice. There's some people that really just want to use the Council on Aging van. That's what they want. And then there's some people that want the individual attention of that one-on-one volunteer. Mm-hmm. And then again, there's a number of times that we're going to Springfield, or and those kind of create glitches in the transportation system because of the time commitment of going to Greenfield or Hatfield or Hadley. Mm-hmm. So that's a good way to balance.
Tell them a little bit about how it's panned out in terms of the percentage of transportation versus, I know the other day you were saying it's huge.
Transportation is something
number
like
one,
something like 80% of our calls are transportation, and I think people feel a little bit easier. I don't know. I have to say, I was a little annoyed just the other day. I was called to bring this person because I'm kind of, when they can't find another volunteer, they'll call me. So and she needed to go to Stop and Shop, and all she needed was a half a gallon of ice cream, and I was a little bit annoyed because I was going, but it could happen, and I did it, and that was important to her, so it was all right, But so that wouldn't happen to the senior center van, or you really would be very annoyed if that happened. Not so much when you're in a personal car and you could do a little shopping yourself. It was a different scenario. what else? What else? Oh, and the other thing's the IT. We have a woman. Well, we have a number of volunteers that are. We're going to be strengthening that component of our services. But she goes out, shows people how to use their iPhones, and helps how to watch Netflix on television and how to record. So we have actually about 10 volunteers now in that capacity. So we're going to get it a little bit more formalized. But another thing is the small tasks, the turning of the mattress. Really, we have a couple of very, very powerful guys, and they turn the mattress. They move all of the air conditioners, and it's like a godsend to a lot of the older people, really.
The last thing is socialization. I think I always liked your analogy about the senior center, within the senior center, and then what happens with the neighbors outside. In other words, a socialization that you can handle through the neighbors versus the council.
Well, and one of the things that is a little bit of that we are working on now is that, again, a lot of the older people who are very isolated don't know how to ask, and it came across on that video. And so we're working closely. We're hoping to work more closely with Highland Valley, but the visiting nurses, we are moving. We have a kind of a office. We have an office now within the senior center. We are going to be moving to the Visiting Nurses Association. So again, we're hoping to work very closely with them, because that's in my heart what's really missing. Because if Mrs. Smith gets out of the hospital, they don't have to, professional services do not have to provide that supportive person until 48 hours after they are released from the hospital. Well, guess what? When you get out of the hospital, your second and third hour, you need your friend. You need that cup of tea. You need to get acclimated to your environment. Anyway, so that's again a place that Cooley Dick and the visiting nurses are hoping we can really fill that gap.
Anything else?
Oh, ask. Come on. I know it's in there. Come on.
Well, I was going to ask about, I'm Julie Kempman. I live on Oliver Street, Easthampton. I know you had space, you had an office space, or you borrowed space in the senior center in Northampton for a while. You don't have that anymore?
We do until June.
Oh, okay, so you're losing that. So how will you compensate for that?
We're going to the visiting nurses.
You said the visiting nursing association.
They're giving us an office space.
Is giving you office space, so is that the alternative to the senior center space? Yeah.
But it's.
Do you think it's important to have a central office? And I'm wondering how that would work here in Easthampton.
No, but you go ahead and answer.
We already have discussed it, and actually there is a little office space that we'll have down in the first level of the senior center, right? Yeah,
I think that's the best alternative. It was, but a lot of the villages are virtual. The call managers work from their home. Diane, who's our part-time staff person, mostly works from her home, and very few people actually come into the senior center to meet with Diane. It's almost always on the phone or through email.
Yeah, so I'm wondering what does your paid staff person do that's different from what your case managers do? Is it like?
Well, we don't do the hard stuff. These are not professional, well, and a number of them are truly professional psychologists and therapists, but they're retired, and so they don't have that professional hat on anymore. But a case manager would go and do, we have welcome visits, and just to get a sense of the person's needs. Like if a person is very disabled, we can't really bring them in our car, we can't do hands-on, so there's really limitations. That's why we have to work very closely with the professionals. But we can sit with them and play canasta, or we can go and get a quick little thing of orange juice for them. And we're not the professionals though. And that's So we are not case managers.
And I think the socialization part of it, I mean, is huge.
Yeah.
And I've said this at a previous meeting. Often we get on the phone with someone who we might be serving an outreach capacity, and it's, something as, us just trying to retrieve a document for them so we can move services along. And what turns into a simple question then becomes this long conversation. You can sense the loneliness, and I can't even tell you how many times we've been on the phone where it's really, oh, okay, we just need, a copy of your Social Security income letter so we can get that over to Mass Health, and then it turns into this 45-minute conversation about, oh, well, I haven't had the chance to talk to somebody, and then they just release, and you can feel that, and when you're isolated like that and you don't have that socialization component, these are people who are probably not going to thrive. We need that bonding, and I feel like that's a huge part of this, and the different circles that have come together with Northampton is that you're seeing this huge, outcome of like people coming together and, sharing experiences and being with each other, which is something kind of back to what Owen said. Some people have kind of removed themselves from that. It would be nice to kind of get back to a point where the community is actually together,
I have a question. I'm Drea Marks, I live in Easthampton. About the technology, the software that you're using, I'm just wondering, are you thinking 10, 15, 20 years out, seniors who are more digitally friendly, literate, using apps and social networks, moving from a call-based system to some kind of a social network or app-based technology?
That would be cool.
That's a great question.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I would love to do something like that. When I had my other hat on in Ireland, I started this initiative called Getting Started. In Ireland, only 6% of the older people were computer literate, and by the time I left, this program reached 6,000 people. So it's just a matter of you will build it and they will come. And I remember going into one of our trainings, and this 80-something-year-old man calls me over and he says, and I'm not going to use my Irish brogue, so don't worry, but he calls me over and he said, Linda, look at this. And he's doing Google Earth. He said, that's my daughter in Seattle, Washington. I mean, he's in Dublin, Ireland. So we can do anything. We can make it so exciting. And we actually have the volunteers that could actually introduce a lot of that to an older person living alone. A lot of people have computers at home now too.
Yeah, there's research. Seniors are increasingly using digital technology.
Yeah.
There is a company called, or a startup called Umbrella, and you should Google it, and it is a social network that's sort of like this village system, but they have monetized it, but it's very simple. The people who are getting the services pay a yearly membership, very low, and then they will pay the person to come in, and they really are focused on aging in place, so a lot of it is about the home and taking care of their home. And so they'll pay for the service, and the people who are they're not volunteering, they're actually getting paid. And it takes about 1,000 active participants to be a viable business.
Wow.
So it's
Very
just
cool.
something to look at, because it's growing, Umbrella, and I mean, I think this is great for our town for right now.
Yeah.
But I think we should be thinking about.
I think it's a great idea too. Yeah. I mean, think of how a lot of older people are struggling to try to pay their cable bills, and there's ways around that we could help out with a little bit. They could watch Netflix, they could, Amazon Prime. This is like, they don't really know these things. So it would be not that, and I don't mean that in a general term. A number of people don't. I'm one of them actually. So you know, I'd like to learn a little bit more about it, but I just happen to be married to a computer programmer, so I'm just letting that happen. You know, but a lot of people still have a lot to learn. And definitely we have to get up to the this level of IT awareness and education. And that would be a wonderful a direction, a great direction. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, thank you. Is it Drea? I think, I mean, she brings up a really good point that the 45-year-olds of today are our 55-year-olds in 10 years.
Sure.
And you're going to have a sudden drastic shift in terms of technological literacy. And so as we kind of undertake this initiative, we should have that in mind, because I think I agree that right now with the population that we're talking about today, a call center makes sense. But we should constantly keep in mind and our eyes on the technology that's going to be available in terms of apps for a an aging population that is a lot more technological savvy and interacts with the world through technology. And so, thank you.
Yeah. And some of the communities, right from the get-go, band together. So that's something to think about. In other words, they have hub and spoke as part of the village network. So you can have more than one, right from the beginning. Actually, we talked about that when we initially started. So then we'd get the number of people we needed. Yeah, that's a good idea. Anything else? Well, good job. Great group.
Thank you.
Much better than the students I used to have in college classes. Everybody spoke up, and that's great. Let us know if there's anything else we can do. And again, we'll hope to hear from, Stan?
In terms, just to follow up on that last issue of technology, I do want to let all of you know that Easthampton is currently working on establishing a municipal internet structure where we will be able to provide internet services to all of our residents at much, much lower cost and higher reliability than they're getting now from the cable companies. And it's going to take us a few years to get there, but we are working diligently on making that happen.
Terrific.
I guess I'm different. See, I want to go backwards, and that's stable. I want to go back to a very simple life. I don't like technology. I don't like cell phones. I'm so tired of seeing people walking around like this all the time. So I would like to go back, and I already have done the neighborly thing of helping neighbors and doing all that. I'm looking forward to not being around when technology is going on. I don't want it. It's just, I'm happy looking at birds, listening to the birds, and just, quiet, simple life. And that's what I would like. I just don't like technology.
Yeah, well, to kind of add to that, I think technology often isolates us too. I mean, people are so caught up in their bubble of social media, and it's funny because you connect with, hundreds of people on social media, but it's not often you're not meeting with them physically.
It's like,
right.
I'm a crossing guard, and all I see is people driving with their phones or walking down the street with their phones, and it's like, I say hi to everybody, and they're like that, and it's, I'm sorry, but I just want to go. I should have been born 100 years ago, where you just sit around a campfire and talk to each other. So but I have, this is great. I've done this with an elderly neighbor of mine when we had the blizzard, the Halloween blizzard. We had no power in her street for a week, so she lived alone. My other neighbor had a generator. He had power. Every morning I would go and bring her hot water because I had a gas stove, got her warmed up, walked her over to his house so she could stay there. So yes, this is fantastic and I love this, but I can't do computer technology. I can't do it.
But the bottom line, it's all about choice, and I think I always almost choose your direction too. But but it's like I still know I need to be educated. So but that's again my choice, and it's your choice to stay within your own home. But this sort of brings back that old-fashioned neighborhood. Yeah. What you did was outstanding, but I'm not sure everybody's neighbor would be able to do that because of our we've cut our
people.
Yeah.
Just there for themselves. So
yeah.
I'm different. I know I'm different, and that's okay. And I thank God. I wave to everybody. I don't care who you are. I have this little car. The car goes by me with a 2-year-old in his car seat, and he always wants the window rolled down when I'm out there. And he wants to say hi to me, and I give him a high five. He's colored pictures for me and stuff. So I would like.
Yeah.
That's how I'd like to stay.
I
The simple life.
It works. Okay, we're good. Take a handout when you leave, please, if you want to.
Thank
And there's
you.
a sign-up sheet if
And we're
anybody's
good. Yeah,
interested.
sign-up sheet.